Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Miss Kiane. Yeah, I'm a poet and I know it. Welcome to Sunday Coaching with Miss Kiane, the break between the rounds. I am the proud owner of Kiane Healing in the Pen, a poetry business that fosters hope, healing, and social change through poetry, spoken word performances, through products and merchandise, poetry, and community outreach that promotes the expression of the arts and connects the arts with the community and social justice and service. I'm also the visionary for the Inkwell, which is a nonprofit that facilitates healing, awareness, and self-love through creative writing programs, journal campaigns and distribution, as well as community outreach and educating others on emotional wellness through the pen. This is what I like to call the break between the rounds, where I come on and I take a few minutes to share what's been on my heart, and maybe you can sift through and find a blessing for you. So today I wanted to talk about building an altar. And that's going to be kind of interesting, right? What does that mean? You ever ride on the highway or on a street or in a neighborhood and you see a stack of candles, teddy bears, pictures, t-shirts, maybe on a corner or around a pole, excuse me, and there is a commemoration of someone who died. Likely they may have died in that area or in that spot through violence or something or maybe even a crash. I've seen it on highways as well, or maybe there was an accident and they did not survive. And people create a memorial right on the street, right in the community, right on the ground. An altar of sorts, a place where there has been a sacrifice. In biblical times, the altar was a place where the people were instructed to bring certain kinds of animals as a sacrifice to God. And then in pagan religions, they use altars for the same reason, bringing sacrifices, sometimes human, to God's lowercase g. So this altar became this place of sacrifice. But the altar is also a place of remembering, much like what you see on the streets, on corners where someone has died. It's an act of building an altar, building a space, building a memorial to remember what happened here, to remember who happened here. What has been highlighted for me in these last few days about building an altar or creating an altar is not so much bringing an animal as a sacrifice. It's not so much building a commemoration for someone who has died. But in actuality, another reason for building an altar in biblical times was to mark a place where one had an encounter with God, where one had received a promise or a covenant with God. They would build an altar there to commemorate, to remember, to mark the spot. This is the place where God spoke to me. This is the place where I got a revelation or epiphany. This is the place where he delivered us from, being killed. This is the place where he gave me a blessing beyond what I can imagine. This is the place. And so X marks the spot. There's an altar that we're going to build here. There's a place of commemoration and remembering that we're going to build here. Altars were also representations of refuge, places that is safe, where you can stop here, pause here, Selah here. Selah means to pause and think about it. And so I am thinking of lately and being reminded of late the importance of metaphorically building an altar. Specifically, when you think about life and how monkey wrenches are always thrown your way, right? Life is life, and we say that now, and I mean it with every fiber in my body, that life be life and people be peopling, and it can be a ongoing, hustle. And if we're not careful, we will not take heed or take light of the moments where we've had an encounter, a good moment, a moment where there's been light and love, a moment where we felt refreshed, a moment where we had an encounter with God, a moment where there was a refuge and a safe spot that we took, we had to take, we were allowed to have. We will not acknowledge achievements and celebrations because life be life and then people be people, and we can be overwhelmed by that part and not take a moment to build an altar. In those moments where your heart is refreshed and your spirit is refreshed, in those moments where light was given to you to be able to see through this dark space, moments where a miracle took place and you know it was by no other means but by the hand of God that this occurred, that you were saved, that you were protected. Moments where you didn't think it was going to happen, but there was an achievement, there was a completion. Moments where you were in a very low place and somehow, some way, God gave you a remembering of his promises, his love, his hand of compassion in your life. These are moments. These are occasions. These are encounters that are happening even in the midst of all the other things when life be life and then people be peopling. And it's important to build an altar in those moments. In other words, it's important to mark the spot. In those moments, this is the place, this is the moment, this is the day, this is the season where, I was reminded of God's grace. This is the season where he performed a miracle. This is a season where he caused me to have completion. This is the moment, this is the place where he spoke a word of promise, of blessing. This is the moment where I was soon going to be overtaken by the life that be life and the people that be people, but somehow I was saved, I was delivered, there was a way made, and my heart is full with appreciation and gratefulness and thankfulness, and this moment will forever change my future moments. Those are places where you build an altar so that you can remember those moments, that you can remember what God has done, so that you can remember that it will be okay, so that you can remember there's a bigger why. There's a bigger why than what's happening right now, so you can remember the why. Those are the moments you build an altar so that you can pull on the refuge. Because sometimes you in the battle, right? But you got to have refuge. You got to have a safe space. That's where you build an altar. And you come back to that place. You remember that place. Those are the places where you tell your children and your children's children. You tell your friends. You tell people that you encounter, I remember a time, this is what happened. This is the place. This is the moment. This is the season where God made a promise, where God saved me and delivered me from a serious situation, where I was refreshed and strengthened to go further. This is the place. This is the moment that I build an altar to remember. You build an altar to remember. You build an altar to refer back to as a refuge place, and you build an altar to worship. That's the third thing I'd say, and that's gratefulness. That's honoring the good and the light and the God in that moment. Honoring and never forget, so that you can remember. They all play a part together. Build an altar, and when you do that, when life be lifing and people be peopling, you can go back to that altar. Do you remember that time? Because if you did it then, if it worked out then, if I had an encounter then, if I had experienced a miracle then, how much more can I do? Can I experience it again? Can he bring it into my life again? Can he deliver me or bring a refreshing in my life again? The altar is the place where you have to build it so you can go back to it and get strength. So you can go back to it and remember. Not to get stuck, but to pull strength from that place. So I'm hoping that makes sense, because it makes a lot of sense to me. It's a place where you mark the spot. It's a place where you can recall, remember, and have refuge and worship and be thankful because of a moment in a season, a place where light, love, deliverance, refreshing, miracles, a promise happened. A sacrifice was made, right? But your life was changed for the better. The trajectory of your life was changed. And this is a pivotal, cataclysmic change moment. And you have to mark the spot so you can remember. All right? So that's my 2 cents, and I'm sticking to it. Build an altar, to remember, to have refuge, and to worship / be grateful, so that you can pull strength for those moments moving forward. My name is Miss Kiane. I'm a poet and I know it. Until next time. Oh, wait a minute. Do I have it? Oh, I do have it. Guess what? My book, 100 Poems and Possibilities for Healing, is available on Amazon.com. It's been available since January 9th. But I have also some copies that you can get, a signed copy from me personally. I'll be featuring February 15th. At Busboys and Poets in Columbia. I'll have some copies then. I'll also be hosting on February 8th. I won't be featuring, I'll be hosting. I'll have some copies then. Come through to the Busboys in Hyattsville, you can get a copy. You can also get a copy if you come down to Lake Ridge, Virginia on February 19th. I'll be featuring Kim B. Miller, speak into existence, open mic. Listen, these right here, this right here is gold. I know I sound biased, but it's gold, and I'm trying to tell you, poems for healing, narratives about the authors, insight to their personal lives, prompts that'll cause you to think reflectively, and part of the proceeds from the book sales on Amazon for the first quarter of the year will go to my nonprofit, The Inkwell. So listen, it's a win-win-win. All right, my name is Miss Kiane, y'all. Until next time, peace.